Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 84th episode of Reanimated. This is the Distant Lands edition, as I'm coming at you from the Middle West. And my name is Stuart Tiffin. I'm one of your hosts, and joining me from Brooklyn is the H.A. Conrad. What's up?
Nothing much.
How was the train?
Horrible. We got a lot going on this week. We got the Pope in town. We got the United Nations going on.
Wow. And
we don't have them here yet. It's just almost like they're kind of prepping for it, so everything's just kind of running amok. So, so I can't wait to see what Thursday looks like, which is when the Pope is actually supposed to be in the city, along with Obama, I think, as well. So
good gravy.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting time here in the Nuevos Yorks.
Well, good luck with that. Enjoy. Keep your head down. And we are going to be talking today, ladies and gents, about it's going to be a brief episode because we've got no zombie news since it's a on the road taping. We'll be talking about the 4th episode of Fear the Walking Dead entitled Not Fade Away. That is a literary reference. Do you remember what it is referring to?
I really don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember either. I feel like it might be William Blake or something. I'm not sure. Either way, we're going to press on as if it's not important.
Yes.
This episode was the first one by a new director, as we mentioned last time. This was directed by, what's the dude's name? Or lady, Carrie Scogland. The first 3 were directed by Adam Davidson. And then this was written by Megan Oppenheimer, or perhaps Megan. So a lady duo came up with the 4th episode. And my next comment is not at all related to the fact that they're both ladies, but it was probably my least favorite so far of the season.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that one.
The tempo of this show has gone from kind of tense and interesting but slow to just slow.
It's slow and it's just kind of annoying, and it honestly, there's a lot of things that don't make sense to me, and I suspect that they're gearing up for something big, or one would imagine they are. They're saving it all up, my guess is, for some crazy finale. But in the meantime, in my opinion, it's making it pretty stupid.
There was not even a single zombie in this episode.
Yep.
Other than maybe one that was already dead. It was super, super lame. Like IO9 is basically their review of this episode is basically saying like this is a completely different show, and part of the reason why it's going this way is to really differentiate itself from the Walking Dead regular, the regular show. And I guess maybe they're doing that. But what I'm hating is this whole conspiracy. Like now it's a conspiracy show.
Yeah, it's a conspiracy show, and this is the thing. I think it's interesting to show those parts, things that might have happened in the face of something crazy happening like this. Like, I guess that's interesting, but I don't really believe what they're showing to me at all. I don't believe that this is how it would go down, and part of why I don't believe that is that I just think that all hell will break loose really quickly as we've said before, like in an urban environment like LA. There's just no way you're going to contain it. There's no way these little islands or whatever they aren't going to see anything. I just think that this is a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
So, and that's the other thing. It's like, yeah, differentiate yourself from The Walking Dead, but you're also differentiating yourself from every single zombie sort of idea out there, or an outbreak idea. And that's what I'm having a problem with.
Yeah.
And it is in the same universe. So, hello, people. Like, it's okay for certain things to be going on that are the same, and I know that you want the tempo to be a little bit different, but I just feel like there's a lot of different ways you could explore how these characters are interacting with each other, how they are sort of, they're in denial. Like there's a lot of different ways to have like the army involved here and not have it go the conspiracy theory way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And unfortunately the army characters, there's one guy who is somewhat being like into a person, the guy who's hooking up with Ophelia. But even he is like kind of a dick, like the stereotypical guy just trying to get in her pants and not, just and she's like just trying to get medicine for her mom or whatever. But and the lieutenant, what's his name, Moyer or whatever, is a complete sociopath and not sympathetic at all. And I don't I think this is a lazy characterization.
Agreed. And we've actually talked about this a few times in different, when we reviewed other shows and films where I feel like going to the total extreme and stereotype like this, where you're showing, to me, just an extraordinarily superficial character in like the worst possible light. I think that there's a pretty wide spectrum, or there would be, especially in the face of something like this. And I think it's much more interesting to show that spectrum as opposed to just these stupid little tropes that keep popping up that we've seen.
Yeah, this is not, to me, creating like good dramatic tension. It's much more interesting when you don't know who the bad guys are, and well, I mean, unless maybe they're going to like spin everything on its head. But right now we know that that the military is bad for whatever reason. And it's a very black and white and curious way to approach this at a time when audiences are much more savvy to this kind of stuff. So I think that they are losing people based on that, but more so they're losing people based on the fact that there's no action. And This was an extremely boring episode. And I hate to say that, but that's what it was. And it's an extremely boring episode after 3 other fairly slow-paced episodes. I mean, episode 3 was pretty good, but it was also like left us with the promise of more bullets or something. Like that was what I was talking about in the last episode. I was like, okay, the military's here. We're going to see some action. And actually, we just skipped forward 9 days, and the city is apparently sterilized.
No, that's what I'm talking about. This is just not possible. It's not possible with how they have been showing the outbreak occurring and the walkers, and this is the thing, based upon what we have seen in Atlanta, we know that this is a really fast moving outbreak of whatever it is. Yeah. And so what, is it just going to slow down in LA? I don't think so. And certainly I think it would be even worse in a place like this because it's just such a dense population. So yeah, I'm pretty annoyed right now, and I'm more annoyed because there's not a full season of this. I mean, their full season is what, like 6 episodes? So we're almost done. Yeah,
we got 2 more.
And this is how they're choosing to spend their time. I'm pretty disappointed, but as I said, I am fairly certain they are just doing all of this to have some crazy finale, but I just feel like it probably won't make up for this slow time on Herschel's farm, as I'm calling it.
Isn't the whole point of a 6-episode series to make each one really impactful, though? Like
one would imagine.
You run into this problem of like in a story arc show where you've got if you have 20 episodes or 13, like okay, there might be a slow one here or there, but when you've got 6, like I don't know, make them all at least extremely interesting from a story perspective. And this, I don't like. There's very little here for me to even work with. Like it's the weird time jump where suddenly I'm like catching up on the Travis Maddie relationship is breaking down so quickly
for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
I mean, not no apparent reason, but it just sort of, it's all boring. I'm really not enjoying a lot of the little voiceovers to explain things. Like, I especially dislike Chris's little, like, soliloquy in the beginning of this episode.
Like they're going to make this one of those video diary shows.
Yeah, and I equally hated the voiceover at the end with Alicia. So,
there's a lot to not like.
No, and while we're heaping it on, one of my favorite characters, like something that could have been a little bit interesting, like the drug-seeking behavior of why am I losing his name?
Nick.
I just keep wanting to call him Johnny Depp, which is terrible. But I just. Maybe because
Are you talking about
maybe because the pressure is off, we're seeing him seek out. Like, I think he would be a drug seeker just because he's been going through withdrawal and things like that. But it's just not even clear to me how he figured out how to get into the house of the neighbor, and he's like mainlining morphine.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you're doing morphine to that level, I don't think you're walking around as if you're not in sort of a daze.
I would assume, yeah.
So he's off swimming in the pool and stuff like that. I think he would just be in a stupor if he was doing that much morphine. So I just, there's so many things to dislike about this episode, and I don't, like, even if it is setting things up, I think, I perceive this as a massive failure at this point. So they better do something to bring it back.
Well, it needs a course correction. Massive failure might be overstating it. It definitely,
I don't think so.
I mean, yes, this episode was a failure, but the show is still salvageable.
The jury's out.
HJ is a tough Russian judge in this scenario.
I am.
Yeah, and they tried to they almost set up the tension where Nick could have caused this guy to die and created a zombie outbreak inside the camp. But then they
which
just
which is where I thought it was going, and then they didn't. And then, and then there's the whole conspiracy piece, which I'm really disliking. And you have the doctor coming in, and there's all this mysterious stuff going on, like taking people away and lying to people about whether they can go with them or not. So there's just all of that happening.
Yeah.
And it's all, again, it's like withholding information when you could just be honest with people.
This whole element of like the military all acting like they don't have families of their own.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
That are being impacted by this.
That's what I'm saying. It would be so much, to me, it would be so much more interesting actually seeing this force come in, and they're over their heads too, because all this is going on to everybody in their lives as well. And to see that reaction and to see that, I don't know, cooperation or something like that. I don't know. It just feels so trite and dumb to me right now. But
yeah,
I don't know. We'll have to, I guess, wait till next week to tear apart more of this episode.
And the show wants us to hate Travis for being reasonable and working with them because they never treat him with respect in return. And that's annoying too, because as the audience, we know that he's like the reasonable guy. We respect Maddie too, because she takes matters into her own hands.
Right.
And is somewhat of a badass. But then also with the Maddie element, when she goes through the wire and ends up, seeing what she sees outside, which isn't totally, to me, incontrovertible proof of anything.
Right.
She doesn't continue all the way to the house with the light in it.
No, and then that's the whole point is dumb.
And
like she just kind of risked all of that for nothing.
She just goes back, yeah. And then the light in the house ends up being like a closed circle by the end of the episode. We don't even have anything to look forward to there, because now all of our attention is on Nick and Liza and I guess Griselda to some extent being taken away. And I don't know, like they made me kind of care about this light in this house, and then nothing came of it. It kind of reminded me of the Christmas lights on the balcony in 28 Days Later. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. We're going to go and, this is rudimentary communication. We're using Morse. We're using, like mirrors to reflect messages, and that's great. But then they're just going to make it be nothing.
Right. I think the best part of this episode was It's a Perfect Day playing.
Absolutely.
Because it reminded me of Train Spotting.
And of course it's Nick's character Nick is the Train Spotting surrogate. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But no, you're totally right. They could have done something with that light. I thought that was a storyline going somewhere else, like other survivors would come out or somebody else would have seen what was going on or something, and nothing other than more conspiracy sort of stuff. And I also, some of the stuff with Maddie, I don't fully believe either, because, blaming Liza for them taking Nick and Griselda and everybody away.
Yeah, nothing to back that up as far as we've seen.
There's nothing that even she's seen to back that up.
Yeah. But it's what we've seen, I think, is what's more important, Right. And we've missed the last 9 days, but, whatever. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so anyway, I would really love to see them correct it. I just feel like at this point, I'm wondering if they can. So we shall see. I don't know if they do a big crazy finale for the next few episodes. Will you be turned back?
I think I'm still more optimistic about the show than you are, probably. Yeah, if they have a good show with some undead next episode, I think that's absolutely imperative. Like this is not the show The Walking Dead where they're just wallpaper. They are. I mean, it's always been like, oh, the governor versus Rick and
Right.
Woodbury, blah blah blah. But the fact that there are people trying to eat you is always the main source of dramatic tension to me. It's like you step outside the wire and you should get attacked by a zombie. That's just how
Right, and
feel.
I thought that's where I thought that they were going when Travis went to explore. I thought he was going to come across like a whole like herd of them or something like that. Like
Yeah.
that he would get some, or even when Maddie was out in the wild there, that she would see like a lot of them, or she would sort of go over the crest of the hill and see what was happening in the rest of LA. Like that's what I was really hoping would happen, and it didn't. It's just totally boring right now.
Yeah. Well, I guess we will just have to wait and see until next week. Have you been watching any of the Walking Dead trailers or teasers for the next season?
No, not yet. Because I felt like, when they came out with the extended trailer for the next season, they
Yeah.
released it over the summer. I felt like they already were giving a little bit too much away, so I kind of have been avoiding just because I felt like I've learned a little too much already, but I'm still excited about it.
Yeah. It's by comparison, I see these brief clips when I was watching the episode last night, and it's like Rick saying, I don't take chances anymore or something, and then it's just like shooting an AK-47 into a room, like on full auto, of course. And I'm just like, wow, this is a completely different show from Fear the Walking Dead, or it's just like one is going 150 miles an hour and the other one is like doing 15.
If that.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I wanted to mention this to you. Have you seen Sense8 on Netflix?
I have not, although a few people have recommended it to me.
I've started watching it. It's difficult to watch sometimes, but Nick is in it from Fear the Walking Dead.
Cool.
He is English, and he plays a drug addict. But he's
No
a British
way.
guy.
He seems to have he seems to have problems all over the place.
Yeah.
I was actually going to ask you if you happened to watch the film Cooties with Elijah Wood. You and I talked about this when it got a few teasers because it premiered at the Sundance in 2014.
I didn't know it was out.
Yeah, and it's out on video on demand, so I am very curious to see it. So maybe that's something we should review soon.
Maybe. I mean, if Fear the Walking Dead throws out another stinker next week, maybe we'll just do that instead.
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, just I didn't realize it was going to go to video on demand. I thought they were going to do, and maybe I missed it. Maybe they did do a limited release in the theaters, but that could be kind of fun.
Yeah,
Some
we'll
of the
definitely.
some of the interviews with Elijah Wood have been pretty funny.
Well, the
So-
cast in that film looks fantastic. I'd love to see that. But yeah, I guess we are done talking about not Fade Away. We wish it faded away faster.
An extraordinarily brief Reanimated this week, folks.
I got nothing else. Ruben
Yeah.
Blades did a really nice kind of like monologue about finding a bunch of bodies in a river, but it didn't carry the episode.
I want to be able to say about one of these episodes that was amazing, and I don't feel like I was really excited at the beginning to see what this had to show, and it's not getting there right now.
No. What we need is some sort of like insane True Detective season 1.
Exactly. That's exactly what we need right now. I know exactly what you're talking about. We do not need True Detective season 2, though.
Well, I somewhat enjoyed it, but however, yeah,
Really?
what we need is a steady cam, insane action
Yep.
scene with walkers, and that will bring the whole season back into focus. So if you guys haven't shot it yet, Kirkman et al., make it happen.
Yep. Let it be so.
So 22 minutes, possibly the shortest episode of this podcast in history. But think of it as one you can do while you run for 2 miles at your slowest pace.
Yep. Doing zombie run.
Exactly. So thank you for listening. I'm hoping that next time we have more to say and more positive things to say about Fear the Walking Dead. I still have hope. I believe. I want to believe. And you can always let us know what you thought at Reanimated PCast on Twitter and reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com or on our website at reanimatedpodcast.com.
Until next time, ciao.
Goodbye, guys. See ya.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Reanimated, your favorite podcast about undead things, reanimated things. I'm AJ Conrad, here with my intrepid co-host, Stuart Tiffin. Hello, Stuart.
Greetings. Hello.
We are bi-coastal, as always, and this episode, as always, is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it easy to create your own website. We have an offer code for you from our friends at Squarespace. If you're a first-time user, you can throw in the word zombie, not case-sensitive, and they'll give you 10% off your first purchase. So thanks, Squarespace, as always, for your support. So this week, episode 85, we are talking about Fear the Walking Dead 5, and it aired on Sunday. I watched it Monday and forced my intrepid partner, Bill, to watch it with me. He was very unhappy about it. But how are you feeling about this episode, Stuart?
Before I get into how I feel about it, let me just break you down some facts about it, okay? Real quick. Director, etc., stuff like that. It's the same director as episode 4, Carrie Scogland, and the writer was David Weiner.
Oh my God, these two had to be teased a lot in school, just saying.
Maybe. I mean, Weiner's a pretty common last name. It just means you're from Vienna.
Yeah, but Scogland, that's tough.
Yeah, she comes from the land of Skogs. 6.6 million viewers. So they've only, if you remember, the premiere started at 10 plus.
Yes.
They've kind of plateaued now. The last couple have been pretty steady at above 6.5 million. It's still very good numbers, despite what we had to say about the episode last time. And
I have to say about the episode this time. But anyway, continue.
Holy free holies. Yeah. Cobalt. This is the name that they gave the project before it got its real name, right? It was Project Cobalt, working title. And so this is the premise that they were working towards this whole time. I'm just feeling very underwhelmed right now.
Oh, I'm feeling more than underwhelmed. I'm feeling absolutely angry.
Oh, anger. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Go on.
Well, so in this wonderful episode, what I was really hoping is that we would get to see, like, as you and I discussed, the last episode was just a lot of kind of sitting around on Herschel's farm. And but, in this little sort of enclave of houses that are protected, supposedly from the rest of the Walker onslaught, or the infected, whatever you want to think about it, and whatever they're thinking about. It's just a whole lot of nothing going on, and kind of, to me, very forced, like, drama that is occurring. So in this particular episode, we've got more tension with the soldiers, which to me felt very forced and stupid. So we get to see where Doug went, and Doug, if people remember, is the husband that's having definitely a bit of a, like, would you call it a panic / anxiety breakdown? Like, kind of a nervous breakdown, right?
I guess so, but based on what, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. You still don't know what's happening. He's seen in the cell with this annoying guy named Strand. And then come on, Strand. Give me a break.
This guy, like, his whole, he introduces the episode, as I recall.
Yeah, he does, and it's terrible.
It's so over the top, his monologue. It's so actory.
I was really getting a vibe of the Stan television show while watching this. Like, that's the sort of very choppy characterization, just really over the top, acting, just bad. I'm
seeing a lot of critics, though, saying that they're his new favorite person on the show. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, okay, granted, manipulating other people is a cool trait for a character to have, but how anybody is falling for his shtick is completely unbelievable when he's just, like, such a clear... He's just a schmaltzy kind of huckster. I don't know what exactly he's supposed to be, but like he's getting effects on people that I don't buy because I'm not buying into his affect. You know,
No, me neither. And then Chris is in the cell with him too.
Nick.
Sorry, Nick. And then we've also got a little bit of Liza in the sort of the medical area of this, and she's given very little information. Like, once again, it just feels like they're withholding information for absolutely no reason. Like, if you bring somebody in, you know you're down on medical personnel, just tell them what's going on, or at least tell them enough so that they understand that they're not supposed to get too close to people when they're dying. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just seemed ridiculous to me.
Well, she does explain to Liza as the episode goes on. If anything that looks like a bite is a bite, and then we take care of it. They just teased it out in the storytelling a little too long, but
A lot too long.
I felt like Exner at least is on the level. She's telling Liza what she needs to know to survive.
Right. But sort of. Not really all that she needs to survive. And then you've got everything going on back at the ranch. And
Honestly, the shit that's going on back at the ranch is kind of mostly what pisses me off.
it's horrible. So there's
Strand is
many
annoying.
things. So this is the thing. So as I'm watching this episode, so you've got the weird military things going on, fine. You've got the hospital stuff going on, fine. And then back at the ranch, you've got sort of these people freaking out because their people have been taken away. And yeah, I get that you're freaking out, but Ophelia's reaction toward the soldiers seems totally insane to me.
Insane. I buy that. I buy her reaction.
And then the
that
soldiers...
everybody else it's that nobody else is out there. 11 people from their community got taken away in the middle of the night, and nobody else, no other family member is out there with her. Like, where the hell did you take our family in the middle of the night?
No, I get that, but I also get that really scary things are going on. And I also understand that when you're looking at, like, these are a lot of really young people in this army, so I'm not going to be out there in front of any guns that are under control of these people that are super tired. Just not happening. And just the army's reactions, like the soldiers' reactions to this is all pretty weird. And then... her buddy there takes her and actually helps her because he doesn't want her to get shot, which is pretty much what's going to happen. And, what happens to him, it's just really horrible. Like Ophelia, lures him back home or brings him back home. What's the guy's name? Adams.
Yeah.
And I just don't, first of all, I don't buy that she would actually do this. And the whole Ruben Blades character, how are you feeling about this?
Yeah, the first time I watched this episode a couple of times just to try and clear my thoughts on it. But the first time I watched it, I was like, this is a completely unnecessary torture scene.
Absolutely.
The guy's like willingly offering up information. But then the second time I watched it, the story does change from before torture to after torture. Before torture, the guy is saying, hey, we're just going to check him out. Everybody's going to be fine. Nobody's getting hurt. And by after torture, he's saying, well, actually, we're all leaving tomorrow, and everybody who's still alive is going to be killed.
So,
So,
I guess, but do you really think that they're going to give information to somebody at his level? I don't buy that.
I don't necessarily believe that. And
I don't buy that at all.
I don't know
And-
why he wouldn't just volunteer the information as soon as he was abducted.
Right. But I also don't buy the whole torture bit. I don't buy the Ruben Blades character. I don't buy him taking it to this level this quickly. I just don't.
It does seem like a disproportionate response.
It does. And you know what else I really don't buy? I don't buy Madison knowing about it and just sort of being like, okay, go ahead. Like, she just kind of she's just like, all right.
Yeah, her motivation is getting a little gray.
Very, very little protest there, which I'm just like, okay. And then you've got, on the other end of things, you've got Travis trying to negotiate with the soldiers, trying to sort of leverage his relationships and get more information out of them. And then again, we see the very ham-handed way that they're treating some of the authority figures here, making them ridiculously one-dimensional and stupid, in my opinion.
This episode did a little bit more to humanize them. The sergeant, I think his name is San Diego, or maybe it's not, but I think it is. He's like, hey,
Where
man, I don't
in the
want
world is Carmen Sandiego? Just
yeah. He's like, I don't want to have to be acting this way. I hate this. I have a family of my own, which is one of the gripes I brought up last week. Like, why aren't they, having any issues with this? We see another guy try to walk off the job, and he basically gets beaten into submission. And then we get some desertion, which I feel like, while that's one way to go, it could have gone other ways. It's at least humanizing the military a little bit, not in like the best light, of course. It's basically just saying that they are terrible managers of their own personnel, letting them stay up 50 hours and then making them do more work and getting a lot of them killed, which is like, I feel like basic leadership 101, that if this Moyers guy had any idea what he was doing, he never would have let it get to this point. He's got enough people to spell his people, let him sit down, take a rest, or, it's frustrating still the way, as you said, the military is still being treated kind of like a big dumb instrument, but it is a little bit better in terms of personality.
I guess they're showing a little bit more of that, but Moyers especially to me is just ridiculous. And the whole scene where they have, to make their point, where they have Travis go to the store and they're like trying to make him kill one of the walkers.
Yeah, it's such a stupid scene.
Ridiculous, and just made me super angry. One of the
things to remember during this whole episode is this is day 10. It was 2 days in when the military showed up, then it was 9 days, and then it's been overnight. So it's like, 13 days. It's only 2 weeks, and yet society has completely broken down somehow, or any attempt to have normal relationships with people.
Well, and I think we're still, to me, it's LA. Again, LA, it's super dense in terms of population. And there just is no way that all of this would be as empty as they're showing it. I
Absolutely.
just don't buy this. And it's really, like, even when they go to the apartment complex, they're like, we still don't see a ton of walkers. We're just hearing about it. And then we hear by way of, Adams that, he locks people into this gymnasium thing, but we still don't see them. And
MTV.com had an article this week where they were like, this is every single zombie that's been in Fear the Walking Dead so far, and it was 12.
Yeah, exactly. So I just think the whole point and the whole idea, we saw more in Atlanta in the first, like, remember when Rick walks in or rides in the horse?
Yeah.
I mean, look at how the treatment of that, like, that is much more in Atlanta compared to LA. Give me a break. Just drives me insane. Anyway, then we also have a little bit more, like, Liza is evolving a little bit more, and she's doing some of the hard things that we see people figure out that they have to do with Griselda. But again, it feels very drawn out to get her to this point, or at least it did for me. I just feel like at this point, there's one more episode left, right?
Yeah, that's it.
And
I mean, then there's 15 more coming in 2016.
Well, great, but I just feel like this has been a pretty weak showing. I don't feel like they've shown us anything new. I think that this is absolutely subpar to The Walking Dead, and I don't think that they've done what they've needed to do here. There were so many more interesting things that they could have done here to separate themselves from The Walking Dead, and I'm just finding myself completely angry and annoyed. But
as a critique on the pacing of this show, I liked the first 2 episodes for the slow pace, the tension, but then I expected it to grow into like a wildfire immediately and then go like crazy, burning out of control, because then you've got this huge, like we've talked about, the urban population all packed in together. I mean, even the arrival of the military should not have just then suddenly skipped all of the insanity that should have happened. Moyers is all boasting to Travis about the 83 body count that his
83?
unit has.
I know, when he says that, I'm like, really? Are you kidding me?
He's like, it's a company record. Then I'm like, where the hell are the millions of people who live in Los Angeles County or whatever it's called? It's absurd. And I guess, I don't know if it's that, when I was thinking about this, I'm like, okay, in The Walking Dead, Rick Grimes says to somebody, maybe in the prison, like, I think half of the population is dead or has been turned or something along those lines, which is a very optimistic number. And I don't know if he was just saying, if we're supposed to believe that, like he's a trustworthy source in that case. And that's, a year into or maybe 6 months, 9 months into the apocalypse. And then in this case, we're 2 weeks in, and maybe we're supposed to believe that even with the absurd rate of transmission that this thing has, that maybe only a few thousand or 10,000 or 20,000 people have actually been infected, and that everybody else is just wandering around fine. But then how is the city as empty as it is? So all these people didn't just disappear. They're either
right.
zombies or they're dead. And we haven't seen any evidence that all these people would have been killed.
I feel like a better name for the show would be like Find the Walking Dead.
For real. Yeah, it's
Just
the pacing just has been. It almost like when the military showed up, I got my hopes up, and then it just totally. They like stutter stepped and decided to like shift down a gear instead of going up. I mean, even the library scene or the scene where they go into that building, there's seven soldiers go in, 3 come out, and we just hear all the action on the radio. It's like they're purposefully, and maybe they absolutely are doing this on purpose, withholding the action from us. We get to see 1 or 2 zombies walking out the front door before they get hit with a grenade, and we just have to assume that Moyers and everybody, all those other guys, were killed, as well as the people inside that they were going to rescue. And that's just disappointing. And I'm still trying to come to terms with how they expect the existing audience to relate to this show. I doubt that like new people are coming in and being like, "Oh, look at this zombie show. I've never heard of this kind of thing before." This is an audience that knows its topic, and I don't feel like it's getting served correctly.
No, it's not. And then there was a kind of annoying scene with Chris and Alicia in the house where they were trying to do one of those little, as you and I have talked about many times, the grocery store scene in 28 Days Later, where they're like in the rich people's house and nothing matters anymore. So they're dressing up in rich people's clothes and it doesn't matter, which again is, that's the other problem I have with the Strand character in the prison is that he's bribing army folks with cufflinks when they have access to like pretty much every house in Los Angeles at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, give me a break.
Yeah.
It's not like they don't know that they have this access. They clearly do. And so why would cufflinks make any sort of a difference? There's just no way that so it's just like this sort of sense of, to me, just like I just don't believe any of what is being presented to me.
And what's wrong with Strand and the other people in there? Nick and Griselda were taken because they both exhibited symptoms of maybe being a risk to the healthy population. What is everybody else in that? There's like, I don't know, a few dozen people in that prison. What are they doing in there? They don't look sick.
Oh.
Not all of them, anyway.
I guess you could make the argument that Nick's just detoxing. I'm not sure why they would have taken him away in the first place, honestly. They don't want to deal with him. Why would they? That doesn't make sense at all. Especially, and by the way, it doesn't make sense, especially if they are planning to off everybody. Why would they even bother bringing these people in?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it depends on when they made the call to pull out, when Cobalt started being thrown around. But
just to sum up, this was probably my least favorite episode. I also feel somewhat vindicated because there was somewhat of a review on IGN, which I know IGN, but who mentioned Strand as being a Randall Flagg-like character, which is the sort of devil.
I've seen that get thrown around too, yeah.
Which is pretty funny. I did not actually read any of these reviews until you and I just started recording, so
okay.
So I came to that on my own. Even if they do something amazing with this finale, I don't feel like it makes up for all the slow-paced nonsense that we've seen in this season. So I hope whatever game plan they have and whatever blueprint they have for the future 16 episodes, that somebody gets their act together. Perhaps that they should hire us to consult for the show. Just saying.
Yeah. Also, one observation for the finale is the final scene of the episode when Salazar walks up to the stadium to confirm the torture information that he got about the stadium being filled with 2,000 zombies.
Yep.
And obviously this is is the thing that's going to collapse, like the fucking pile of cards, the house of cards that's going to collapse. And we can anticipate that 2,000 zombies will be introduced into the scene, which in itself is terrible. That's not good news, but there should be, I don't know, 1 million or so of them in the general area anyway. So
yep.
yeah, that we have that to look forward to. More zombies. That's what at least like the most positive reviews that I'm seeing are saying is like, oh, get ready for that finale. It's gonna be a firecracker. And I'm like, well, where the hell has all that been this entire season? Oh.
One
So,
finale does not a good zombie show make. Just
no,
saying.
you kind of need to keep it going. And all the wacky kids in the rich people's house playing dress up scenes aren't going to make up for that or anything, because I hated that scene with a
That was
passion.
the worst scene ever. You and I are in agreement. Anyway, I want to hear what our what our listeners have to say about this series so far, and especially this episode. Did you dislike it as much as we did? I really hope so. Reach out to us on Twitter, which is Reanimated PCast on the Twitters, or reanimatedpodcast.com.
Yep.
And what is the other thing that we do?
Reanimated podcast at gmail.com.
There's that. So anyway, shoot us a line, and maybe we will wrap this all up next week. But I'm looking forward to watching things such as Cooties. What about you?
Absolutely. And in just 2 short weeks, the premiere of season 6 of The Walking Dead, which might just be over the top absurd by this point, but it'll probably be a breath of fresh air after this.
Indeed. So until next time, ciao.
Goodbye.